Hey guys, Ken's 97 Stowe 171. Gonna do a video today. This is my Jeep. I think I told you about it in my last video. It's a 98 Grand Cherokee. I'll do some pictures or throw some pictures in there here in a little bit. But thought I'd give you. I'm gonna go drive through town here and give you a chance to see the Jeep a little bit, see how it runs, see how it sounds. I just did some exhaust work on it. So it's a little quieter than it was. The mid pipe was gone because somebody cut the catalytic converter out of it. So it was running open header, and I had a piece put in there, and then it fell out. So I ran some flex tubing instead. And anyway, I worked it out differently. So I think it'll work. It'll actually be more secure this way, because instead of the hard, I had a piece of hard tubing in there that was clamped on both ends, but the full weight of the exhaust was hanging down on it. Now with the flex tubing, it's held up in a different way, and I think it's better. So. Sorry about the busted windshield, and sorry about the headliner. There's nothing I can do about it. So it's got 194,644 on it. Hoping I don't run into too much traffic. There's a Reds game going on today. Anybody that comes out of the left here, because it's not really a street. It's not perfect. It runs, forward gears work good, but as I've mentioned, reverse doesn't work very well anyway, or basically not at all. So you got to be careful where you park. But to and from work, it doesn't really affect me, because I can park the right direction, and just, you know, I don't have to back up any place that I have to go. But if you go into a store or something, you know, you just need to be aware of your surroundings and plan where you're going to put the car before you put it there. It's a pretty dog. It's a bulldog, I think. British bulldog. Gonna be a little gentle on it. I got tools in the back of the Jeep there, guys, so if you hear some clanking and banging around, that's what it is. That building right there, which I'm sure you can't see, the white one there, is called the Ascent. They built that a few years ago. I think the condo on the top sold for $5 million. Straight ahead there. It's kind of weird. It's white and black striped, and it's kind of like a curly Q. It twists as it goes up, sort of. Well, not twist, but it kind of. Anyway, it's pretty weird looking. If I get a chance, I'll throw a picture of it in the video. I'm looking a little funny here, guys, because I slept funny last night, and I got a really bad kink in my neck. So it hurts to turn my head, so I kind of got to turn my whole body to turn left and right, to look left and right. I don't know, they're building some stuff right here. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's new condos and not Section 8 or something. I doubt it. Newport's actually kind of on the rise. It was even in 2008, before the housing crisis killed everything. And I can turn right on red, but I just got to be careful. Like I said, it's hard for me to turn and look. So this is a 98 Grand Cherokee. It's a Laredo. It's got most of the goodies on the inside. Heated seats, leather, power seats both sides, cruise, air. It doesn't have the VIC, Vehicle Information Center, down here, which is perfectly fine with me. It does have up here, it gives you your miles and your date and your clock and compass and all that stuff. So it's full-time all-wheel drive. There's no rear-wheel drive option. It's got the NP249 transfer case in it, which again for my use is probably great. Viscous coupling is shot. It binds up pretty badly, so I actually pulled the front drive shaft out to keep it from binding up that way. The reverse works badly enough as it is, but you get that four-wheel drive binding going on and you can find yourself stuck pretty easily. You won't even roll back because it binds up. So like I said, it's got 195,000 on it, almost 194,600. Probably needs some shocks because it rides a bit rough, but you know what, paid $500 for it, so I think I did okay, even if I got to pay $1,000 to rebuild the transmission. You know, so what? Not a big deal. It's a nice looking Outback. That's like our silver wagon, but it's an Outback. Goes through the forward gears good. Does a few odd behaviors. I'm going to post this on the forum. That's cool. I've never noticed that before. Little statues of kids playing right there. I really wish they would repave this. It's not the road here that's real rough, but the sewer manhole covers are like 2 inches below the street level in some places. Some places they're not. But let me tell you that I got that one right there. Bit of play in the wheel too. The right side tie rod, the outer right tie rod is he's got a little bit of play in it. What I'm praying to God is that the game isn't letting out like right now. Oh man, my neck is killing me. I hear a fire engine. That's not good. I have no idea where it's at. It's not behind me. Nope, there's nothing I can do. Oh, here it comes. It doesn't have any lights on. It's Covington Fire, but he doesn't have any flashers on. That's bizarre. This Jeep has the 5.2 liter V8. Runs good. Doesn't really seem to use much oil. I mean, I'm at 2,060 miles on this oil change, and I think it's down less than a quart. No, you know, that might be 3,000 miles. So I think at 3,000 miles, it's like a quart and a half is what it's losing. A little bit of leaks. I think it's valve covers, but you know, for $500, the stereo doesn't work. It actually does work, but all you get is the noise. You get the sound of the tweets. None of the other speakers work. So the amp could be bad, or who knows. I'll just put a different head unit eventually. Love the V8. Average about 16.5 miles per gallon overall. That's city and highway. You know, sucks, but it's a big box and it's a V8, and I do enjoy driving it. I lucked out on the Reds game, because it would have already been backed up. It's got heated mirrors, auto tinting rear view, which does seem to work, although it's a bit slow in reacting. A little darty on the highway, you know, with the slop in the steering. The right front tire is about bald too, mostly because that it's towed out too much because of that the slop on the right side tie rod. But it tracks straight down the road. Doesn't really pull to the left or right. Overall, I'm pretty happy. It's got heated seats. They actually work, which is kind of amazing. That was the thing when I bought this, you know. It was pretty beat. The front bumper's missing. They hit something and tore it off and damaged some of the mounting points, and just probably leave it like that. Or I'll maybe put a metal bumper on the front of it, like a bull bar with a winch in the front of it or something. You know, when I looked at it, you know, all the things that normally don't work in an older Jeep, like the heated seats and the power windows and locks and the electrics and the vent controls, and you know, most of it worked. Power seats all work, and other than needing a good clean, it's in pretty good shape. There's hardly any rust underneath of it at all. There really is very little rust on it. A little bit on the rocker panels, like underneath the doors, just a little bit of surface, you know. But there's no, on the frame, it's clean. I don't know whether it was undercoated or whatever, but there's no rust on it that I can really see. So there wasn't much rust on it. Looked in the glove box, found the owner's manual, found the original window sticker, which, by the way, was, I think, $34,600 originally. And, you know, reverse doesn't work, but everything else seems to work okay, and it's a Jeep. So I'm going to fix it little by little. My plan originally was to get the transmission fixed first before putting any other serious money in it. But that tire's getting pretty worn out to the point where, you know, another couple months I'm going to be worried about driving on it. So I went ahead and bought the tie rod end. And so I'll probably put the tie rod end on it, maybe get a set of cheap used tires to go all the way around it. They don't have to match exactly since the front drive shaft's out. On the all-wheel drive models like this, you need to make sure all the tires are exactly the same diameter, or you can increase the wear on the viscous coupling, which is already shot. But I think for now, I'll just throw some, since it's summertime, I'll throw some used tires on it. Then the next thing is figure out what's going on with the transmission. And I'm hoping there's a circlip, there's a clip or something that can crack and fall out of the transmission, and usually you'll find it in the pan. They can make reverse not work. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. Tell me in the comments if I am. But that may be all that's wrong with it, or it needs a whole rebuild. But I kind of doubt it, since all the forward gears work basically totally correctly. Kind of makes me not think that it needs a rebuild. I think there's a control problem, or something like that. Like I said, the forward gears work good, but it does do a couple of odd things. Very light throttle. It goes through each gear perfectly smoothly, perfectly fine. At about a quarter throttle, I'm estimating here, guys. It's not exactly. It'll go up through first gear, it'll go to second, and then right as it almost completes the change to second gear, it decides, oh no, I need to go to third. And then it goes to third, And so it's kind of like a, you know, and it does like first to second, second to third at the same time, or sequentially, really quickly. If you put it down half or 3/4, it goes through the gears properly. The weirdest thing that it does, if you floor it, I've not done this from a standing stop. I've done it like it's already in first gear going, or maybe it's second. Anyway, if you floor it and let it rev all the way up, it doesn't shift. It hits the rev limiter and sits there on the rev limiter rather than shift. Now, I've not sat there and held it to find out what it does, because I don't want to beat the shit out of the engine. So that's the other weird thing. So light throttle, it's perfectly fine. 25% throttle or so, quarter throttle or so. It goes from 1, 2, 3, 4. More throttle, it shifts fine. And full throttle, it hits the rev limiter and it doesn't shift until you let off the throttle. So maybe it doesn't go through forward gears perfectly fine, but normal driving, it doesn't slip, it doesn't do anything weird except under those circumstances. So I'll get on the Jeep forum and see what they think, you know. I enjoy driving it though. I mean, I really wanted a WJ, kind of still do. I like the way it looks, although honestly a ZJ in good shape is a pretty damn good looking vehicle too, actually. 5.9, some of those 5.9s are just sexy as hell. The ZJs can look really good when they're in good shape. I kind of like the WJs better, particularly like an Overland or a Limited, but I don't know, the Jeep forum, there's so many people that buy a nice, seemingly well cared for V8 WJ, 4.7 liter WJ, and a month later they're putting an engine in it. I just couldn't risk it. I wasn't going to spend that kind of money, and I couldn't find a really cheap WJ around me. So you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 for a WJ, and then maybe have to throw another $3,000 in it. No, I wasn't going to do that. I didn't need a Jeep that badly. If I was going to spend $3,000 on a vehicle, I would have bought a Honda CR-V, honestly, because I don't need to go. I don't plan on doing any major off-roading, and a Honda CR-V will easily do fire roads or get back into the property down in Kentucky where we live. I didn't really need a Jeep, but when this popped up for $500, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's what I would have preferred, but not at $3,000. I wasn't going to spend $3,000 on the Jeep. With the risk of what could possibly go wrong. I figured at $500, hell, that's the scrap value for the damn thing. So, I've driven, I don't know how many miles I put on this. Probably 3,000 or 4,000 miles already. And nothing else has really gone wrong except for the exhaust, which was broke when I bought it. And I fixed it and it broke. Nothing else has really gone wrong. So, I'm pretty happy. The only thing, if it rode a little bit smoother, and that's because it needs shocks. The rear shocks are totally shot. The fronts are probably totally shot too. If it rode a little better, which it will when I put shocks in it, because my friend Chad from Rat Race Losers, he's got a ZJ, and it rides a lot better than this one does. So I know what it'll ride like with good shocks on it. And if the steering was a little more precise. Those two things, and I would be like totally happy. Really, I'm already totally happy, but if this thing had rack and pinion steering in it, it would be like the bomb. But I drive an 18-wheeler. It's got the same style steering. It's got a gearbox steering in it too. So it's not like I'm not used to a vehicle with slop in it. You learn to anticipate it and just deal with it. And this will tighten up quite a bit when I put that tie rod in there and get it aligned. So, by the way, the wheel is cockeyed. It doesn't actually pull. I'm not holding it to the right. It's just the wheel is not straight. So judging by where the wear is on the thing here, I bet it's been this way for a while. Alright guys, I'm going to cut the video short here. I may start it again when I get off the highway, but I mean it's going to be like half an hour of boring highway, so I'm going to stop and I'll come back to you guys later when I get off the interstate. See you guys. Hey guys, Ken's 97 Stowe 171. We're back. Back off the highway. I'm on the north side of Hamilton, Ohio now, headed up to see my friend up in Camden, and it's a nice little drive. There's Hamilton's coal power plant. They provide their own electricity for the city. I'll get it on in here a little bit so you guys can hear it. I floored it that time and it shifted really firmly. Sounds pretty good though. It's actually a lot quieter since I did my exhaust patch today. Like I said, I put a piece of flex tubing off the header pipe, ran it back, and connected it up to the muffler. But obviously, flex pipe, it would hang because the only mounting point on the muffler and tailpipe is back by the bumper. There's nothing else that holds it up. So I got to make sure I watch my speed through here, guys. This is New Miami. They have speed cameras up. And you go for it, buddy. They'll write you for doing 36 and a 35. It's right here. You can see them standing up there. one right there. There's one on the other side too, facing the other direction. Best bet is to go like 30 through here. It's a bunch of shit. They're talking about, there's legislation going through the Ohio legislature to ban those things statewide. But anyway, back to the exhaust. So there's no mounting point, so it would just droop, which is what happened before. I had a piece of solid pipe in there that I had used clamps on, but over time the bouncing, it started falling and falling and falling, and finally the clamp came apart and it fell off, and I lost it on the highway somewhere. So this time I thought, well, I'll hold the muffler up some other way, use flex pipe, and then it's not under any stress. It just is a connector pipe. So what I actually did was, underneath the muffler, I put a piece of non-flammable material, a block of wood, another piece of non-flammable material, and I've got a ratchet strap that goes from one side of the car underneath the muffler, underneath a piece of wood, to the other side, and I ratcheted it up so it holds it up and towards the frame rail, and so it doesn't move around at all. There's a heat shield above it, so it's not gonna, the muffler's not gonna cause a heat problem inside the car. And then I hooked up the flex piping, and it was leaking as it usually does. That flex pipe, when you put those clamps on it, it poofs it out on the sides, and then a little bit of exhaust comes out. So I got some exhaust mending paste that you put on and it hardens. And I got one of those wraps that you wrap around it, and then it turns into an epoxy gel, and basically just sealing up the extra little leaks. Didn't really need to, but it secures it a little bit better, and it is definitely much quieter now. I actually had a compliment on it yesterday about how it sounded. I was walking in to get stuff to make it quieter, and the people in the parking lot were like, "Hey man, your Jeep sounds awesome." So I almost didn't bother, but you know, 354. I'll have to get gas when I'm up this way. It's about 10 cents a gallon cheaper than it is in Kentucky. Hopefully I'll get a stoplight where I can get on the throttle a bit. You guys can hear it. Sounds really good. These 5.2 liter V8s, I mean, it's the old 318. They made them forever. The only real problem I've heard with them is that the plenum gaskets go, and then they consume a bit of oil and they ping. You get some engine pinging from the oil. I don't think this one needs that done, which is surprising because they pretty much all need it done. Maybe it's already been repaired. I don't know. But, you know, other than that, the 318 was always a pretty good engine. It'll be interesting to see if that muffler paste, you know, how well that really works. I've used it before, and usually if it's under any stress, it'll crack and fall out. Really all I was using it for was a filler to fill the gaps, and then I wrapped it with that other tape. Again, there's no stress on the joint. It's just being used as a filler. I'll see how long it lasts. If it doesn't last, you know, I'm out like $5, and again, it's not that big of a deal. Because it wasn't even that loud when I started the repair. Let me tell you what, though, it was loud with open header because the catalytic converter was gone too, so it was straight. The exhaust ended right past the transmission cross member, so it wasn't like right up there. It was a little bit farther back, but it was still pretty loud. Running down the highway inside the car wasn't that loud at light throttle, but it was pretty loud. And sometimes I got to get up at 3, 4 in the morning. My neighbors probably would have been pretty unhappy with me if I continued to drive it that way. I only drove it that way 1 or 2 days, and I left the house at like 10 a.m. that day, so it wasn't too early. The Miata is starting to use more and more oil. Although I don't know that the consumption's any higher, but I think what's finally happened after 3 years of significant oil burning is that the catalytic converter is finally starting to be damaged or plugged up or coated. And because what would normally happen is you would drive the Miata and it would smoke blue until you got up on the highway and the exhaust got good and hot, and then you really didn't see any visible smoke anymore. Didn't really have too much to do with how hot the engine was. It had to do with how hot the exhaust was. And that's the last couple weeks I've noticed that it's smoking more and more, longer and longer. And you shut it off, go in a McDonald's or a restaurant, come back out, and it takes the same amount of time it did before. All right, here we go. There's nobody behind me, so we're gonna. Maybe I should have done with the window open or closed. It's funny. I think it's actually noticeably a little slower since I patched the exhaust up. That's kind of funny. It could just be in my head. I'm wearing different shoes today too. It could be that the pedal just feels different. I don't know, because there's still no catalytic converter on it, and the muffler's got holes in it too. So it ain't exactly like the muffler's plugged up. At some point, once I get the transmission fixed, I'll put an entirely new exhaust on it. It's not that expensive. I priced it on Rock Auto. The Y pipe from the header, from the manifolds, Y pipe, cat, muffler, tailpipe, it's like $250 for all of it. So it's not that bad. I'd probably like to put some other kind of muffler on it so it has a little better sound. We don't have emissions testing in Kentucky, so I don't need to worry about the catalytic converter being gone. As far as that goes, there's no inspection. And the primary O2 sensor is still there, so that's what controls mixture. Got a little wheel hop there after I went over that bump. really firm there. That's probably a symptom of something not right, too. I do like the V8, but I think it's slower. That's really interesting. Makes me think what I might do instead of fixing the whole thing up, what I might do is junk all of the exhaust that I've put on there and just throw a nice high-flow muffler right on the end of the header pipe there. Just run it like that, run a pipe out to the side of the car. Interesting. I could just bust up all of the exhaust work I just did today and let it leak. That's another choice. It wasn't that loud. Like I said, I got a compliment on it about how good it sounded, so. Now, I almost did that when I put that flex pipe in there. You know, I bought like a $50 or $60. They had a thrush in there and a couple other mufflers. I thought about just mounting that, and I wasn't sure about how much room I had. And the muffler was like $80, and you know what I did cost me like $15. So, you know, this will work for now. Very pleasant vehicle to drive. Like I said, if it had modern rack and pinion accurate steering and they made something like this today, I would, you know, if I was going to spend money on a new Jeep, it's kind of what I came to the conclusion of, rather than looking for a 99 to 05 or 04 rather, WJ. You know, if I decide I really want a Jeep, a nicer, newer Jeep, wait until I get some more money together and get a WK, 05 to 2010. The newer the better. Get a Hemi Limited. It'll have quadra drive 2 in it, have everything I could possibly want. You know, they seem to have a little bit less problems with that generation of them. So, you know, if I was going to spend that, you know, 3 or 4 on a WJ, you know, maybe better off to spend 7 to 10 on a nicer, newer one. And that quadra drive 2 system works really well. It's the same as the old quadra drive, but it's got electronically controlled limited slip differentials up front and back rather than using a gear rotor. The old ones was a purely mechanical system, which was really good. The WK uses an electronic limited slip differential in the front and the rear. I mean, it's a pretty impressive system. You've got essentially a limited slip diff in the center to send power front to rear, and you've got limited slip controllable diff left to right, both front and rear axles. And you know, it's a pretty beefy system. I think even the old system, the regular quadra drive, you know, it engages in like a quarter of one wheel spin or something like that, or half a wheel turn. It's pretty quick. I think it's a quarter wheel turn actually. Yeah, that's pretty fast response time out of a mechanical system. I would imagine the electronic system is probably even quicker. Also, I think it may use the brakes to help with that, because that's how the other all-wheel drives work. The lesser all-wheel drive systems in that model, they use the electronic brake force distribution system, and if that wheel starts spinning, they apply the brakes on that wheel. Well, even though it's just an open differential, it doesn't matter. If you clamp that wheel down, the power goes to that side, and that wheel starts to go. And they can modulate the power using the brakes. That works pretty good for like snow and just on the road. But if you're doing any serious off-roading where you got a lot of stress, that brake system doesn't work quite as well. For road use, though, it works quite well. Now, the problem is those base systems. You know, they usually also come in, again, with the V6 or that 4.7 V8, which I'd like to stay away from. So if I get one, I want the Hemi in it. If it's got a Hemi in it, it's probably a limited. It's going to have a quadra drive too anyway. So, and it's got rack and pinion steering, independent front suspension, which has its positives and negatives. It does have a standard differential up front, but then it's got independent suspension. So, but you know, for $500, I really like this Jeep a lot. One thing I do like about this model, the ZJ, the corners are easier to see because basically it's a big square box. The WJ, the front is more rounded, and you really can't see the front end of the car as well. So this one's a little easier to drive. It's a little smaller, but it's a little easier to drive, you know, in the parking lot and around town. Speed limit is 55 through here, so. Popo. Oh man, my neck is killing me. My friend that I'm going up to see here, she's a certified massage therapist too. I might ask her if she can work my neck a little bit here. I don't know whether that'll help though. I just slept on it weird and got a kink in my neck, and my shoulder's starting to hurt because the muscles are all tensed up on the right side of my neck. She might be able to help me with that. Hopefully this video turns out okay. The GoPro works okay in the car. See what the audio sounds like from the GoPro too. I'm recording the audio with my cell phone because it does better audio recording, but if the one from the GoPro sounds okay, I might just use that, or maybe use them together. Oh, come on, people. They're going like 52 and a 55. Turned into a really pleasant day. It was a little cold this morning. It was rainy last night. Probably could have drove the convertible, but it's a little cool. I mean, it was just it's only in the mid-50s, which is warm enough, but it's not pleasant. And like I said, the Miata's burning a shit ton of oil, and I gotta fix that. So that's why I kind of wanted to get this thing back together again a little better, and just start pull the engine apart on the Miata, pull the head off, take a look at it. And, you know, my hope was that as summer approached, I could ride the scooter. I have a choice of driving the Jeep or riding the scooter or motorcycle to work every day. But this whole past week it's been raining pretty much every day, so haven't really been able to do that. Alright guys, I'm gonna kill the video here because I'm coming in. This is coming into Camden, and I'm almost to my friend's house, so I will talk to you guys later, and you guys be safe out there and have a beautiful day.